Hello everybody, Tania Ellis from Whittle and Boatwood here today, and joined with me we've got our specialist in the industry, David Faulkner from Real IQ, and
I'm Kelly Lang, I'm the Business Development Manager at Whittle and Boatwood.
And we've grabbed David away today from some training with us to come down here, and we've just got a few questions that we thought would be good to ask, because I think a lot of you are probably wondering some of these questions, just with all the changes to the legislation that is proposed for the industry. So Kelly and I have grabbed David today, and David, we just wanted to ask you just a few questions. I think Kelly, you had the first one.
I did. So the government is about to bring in the legislation for the Healthy Homes Guarantee Bill.
Yes.
As the Business Development Manager, I'm getting asked every day, hey look, what does this mean for me and my property? What are the new rules that are coming in?
Well, I'm getting asked that a lot as well, Kelly. I mean, it's a lot of questions around the industry about what these standards are going to look like. Now, we've been sent through papers from the government and we've had extensively read through them. Now, from my perspective, I actually think long term it will benefit New Zealand as a whole.
I agree.
Yeah, I do believe that the quality of rental properties across New Zealand probably isn't the standard where it should be when you're looking at properties around, parts of Europe, even across the ditch in Australia. We do have issues with some rental properties in regards to mould, and what the government is trying to do is just raise the standard of rental accommodation across New Zealand.
I think that's really important.
Yeah. And I think if you're a proactive landlord, really I don't see any concern. The vast majority of landlords already want to try and provide that warm, dry, healthy accommodation for the tenants. It benefits the tenants long term. Yes, there will be a little bit more cost to landlords, but it's a business as well, so I do anticipate that rents will slightly increase because of the implementation of some of these government initiatives.
And what about the other? So the other part to that too, David, is there's some talk about some possible changes to the legislation in terms of the Residential Tenancies Act.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more controversial. I mean, some of the changes could be particularly around the security of tenant for tenants. And making sure that they feel that they're safe in the home, that if they feel that they have to go to a landlord and ask for repairs and maintenance, that there's not the worry that the landlord's going to be a knee-jerk reaction and give them 90 days notice. So what we've seen, and this is a trend which we're not just seeing within New Zealand and across the ditch in Australia, but also in Europe as well, predominantly England, Scotland, Wales. What we're seeing is that they're going to start introducing what they called no-cause evictions. What that means is if you're going to give the tenant notice, you're going to have to give them a valid reason as to why that tenancy is ending. And that could cause, a little bit of grey areas. But, I mean, again, it's only going to affect a very, very small percentage of tenancies. The reality is when people give notice, it's genuinely the tenants who give notice rather than the landlord. So I don't see it being the major impact that what a lot of people think. By the time people have seen this, I would have been involved in 2 working groups with tenancy services where what they basically do, they'll get industry experts, they'll get tenant lobby groups, they'll get landlord lobby groups around the table, and they discuss about the proposed reforms, and which is good because you get a bit of balance to the debate, because you don't want to go too far to the left and you don't want to go too far to the right. Tenants do need protecting, they need the rights looked after, but hey, we need landlords, and New Zealand needs a strong private rental sector, and so I think that the discussion will be robust, but I think it'll be very, very productive, and we ensure that it doesn't go too far one way or the other.
I think that's the important thing. It's to listen to both sides and try to get something that really meets in the middle, so that we can see that we're benefiting everybody rather than just one group more than the other.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tanya, I'm a landlord, and I've got no intent. I mean, some people you'll hear groups saying, "Oh, landlords got to sell. There's got to be a mass." Rents are going to go up because there'll be a shortage of rentals. That's not going to happen. I don't believe at all that will happen. Property is still seen to be a very, very good form of investment. I actually do think that we'll see younger investors coming into the market, maybe with a little bit more of, baby boomers have done very, very well out of property. You may get a new breed of investor coming in, maybe more of a social conscience that are aware that, houses in New Zealand aren't really that environmentally friendly. And I think those type of investors will want to make sure that they are providing a warm, dry, healthy home, and long term they're actually protecting their assets. If you do not do maintenance on your property, it's just going to depreciate in value, and it's not going to be worth much at the end of the day. If you keep adding value and making sure that it's warm, it's dry, that there's mould not going to damage the property, it's the right thing to do. Long term, I think it's going to benefit all of New Zealand. Short term, there'll be a little bit of an extra cost. Rents will probably go up to cover those costs, but long term, New Zealand will benefit.
I think so, I agree.
No, yeah. I think so. I think I don't think it's anything to be too concerned about for anybody. As you say, a couple of adjustments in the beginning, but overall... Well,
the Residential Tenancies Act, it was introduced in 1986, and some of those laws, they just, as more and more people are forced into long-term renting, and you've got to have renters for life, the laws do have to evolve to ensure that, the tenants do feel like that they are secure in the property. Now, when you hear the horror stories in the news and whatever, it's only really a very, very small percentage of landlords and tenants which will do the wrong thing. Vast majority, it's a business relationship. The tenant is the landlord's consumer. You want to ensure that you're providing a product which they're going to be happy with, that they're happy to pay for, and they're happy living there. And if they're happy living there, they're going to be there long term.
And I think just a couple of final questions, because I know how much Kelly is a lover of animals.
I do. I've got my fur babies at home. Now, look, with the new legislation that's coming through, what's going to change in regards to pets and rental properties?
Well, for fur babies like your cats, or for Monty the office dog, it's very good news if you're a pet-loving tenant.
Yep.
So what they're going to be saying, because the rental property, first and foremost, this is what I think people have to change the mindset to a degree. It's the tenant's home, and the kids are being brought up in these houses long term, and so why should I, if I'm a homeowner, I'm allowed to buy myself a dog and have a dog in my house, but the tenant who lives next door can't? So what they're saying is that tenants should be able to have the right to have pets. Again, when I used to do property management a few years ago now, I found that if you're a pet-loving tenant and you can bring, you got the registration of the dog, it's registered with the council, they're perfectly good tenants, and very rarely I had issues with tenants with pets. There's got to be some laws in there to make sure that landlords can have a say on what type of pet is going into the property.
What do you think some of those laws should be?
Well, I actually think that if a tenant's got to move into the house, then they've got to have a pet with them. And I would believe that the tenants, at the end of the tenancy, they should have to have the carpets, and it's written in that it's commercially cleaned, that it's treated for fleas. If there is any damage caused by the pet, well, then that comes under, tenant damage anyway. We're going to see a change in that controversial Osaki ruling, where liability is going to be put back onto the tenants. So,
hallelujah for that.
Hallelujah for that, I agree. And so if you're adequately insured as a property investor, really, I don't see where there's any dramas. I think that you should be able to say, well, if a dog is a nuisance, like if a tenant is a nuisance, if it's bad for neighbours, or if it's causing social disobedience, then there should be rules in place where the landlord can take action and have either the dog or the pet removed or the tenants removed.
I think the main thing we're concerned about is the safety of our property managers when they go over and do inspections, and we have to make sure that they're safe as well. So.
This is something that quite often gets overlooked across the industry. It's being a property manager isn't an easy job, and there's a lot of conflict, a lot of confrontation, and we have seen in some cases where property managers get harassed, get abused, and we've seen a tragic case last year. Again, my opinion, if the dog is a threat, then you will not go onto the property, and then you've got to take steps to have the pet or the tenants removed. We cannot have people living in our communities with dogs which are simply dangerous, not just for property managers, but for neighbours, for kids, whatever it may be.
So there you go, everybody. Lots of discussion at the moment, lots of things to talk about, and that's why it was great to have David here today, because we sort of thought that would help everyone just to see that there is still a lot of discussion. There's nothing set in concrete at this point in time, but as David has mentioned, we're expecting to get some results and to hear something that is more concrete towards the end of the year, ideally, and once we do know what all that's going to be, we'll certainly let you know. So nothing to be overly concerned about, just to keep yourself informed, and that's what we're here to do. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening. Bye-bye.